Hey all you nerds, Gabe aka Froopy Art here, and welcome back to our Gravity Falls and Cryptid-inspired Pokemon region. In the previous episode, you stopped some Cypher Squad grunts from harvesting strange, prismatic amber. But afterwards, the professor was unexpectedly arrested. You're now crossing a small desert to get to the police station and prove his innocence.
Blah, it's so hot out here. Stupid police arresting our Grunkle for no good reason. What do they think he did anyway?
I don't know, dude. I always hear these crazy rumors about the professor. That he's like a cheat and a scoundrel and like a terrible person and everything. But he told me that's all just a lie, so I know we're good.
Exactly.
Though I gotta say, when we used to work together, or at least when I think we might have worked together, I do remember him being pretty irresponsible. I really do think it might have been him who tested a prototype device on me and left my thinker all mushified.
You hope that McHadron is mistaken. You're feeling quite fried as you finally approach the police station. Mabel dramatically kicks the door open and you all run in. Grunkle Will is in cuffs with the two officers blocking your way. And you notice sitting on their desk is the last device component that you need.
Give us our Grunkle back. You've got the wrong guy.
You came to rescue me. Thanks, kids.
Of course, Professor. We know that you wouldn't be committing any crimes, right?
Look, I hate to break it to you, but I don't think you know the professor at all.
We've got a big old folder just overflowing with crimes.
Overflowing seems like an exaggeration. Officer Blurland does in fact pull out a folder that is quite literally overflowing with reports.
Loitering, shoplifting, grand theft auto,
I had a good excuse for those.
impersonating an officer,
Just the one time.
impersonating a clergyman,
That one was actually a pretty funny story.
stealing radioactive waste.
Okay, that one's for a personal project.
Enough of that. Sorry, kids, but he's not going anywhere.
Kids, these bozos won't listen, alright? They refuse to believe that Glee is up to no good and that they need to be stopped. In fact, for the good of Twin Falls and the whole Hoax region, I think it's time for a good old-fashioned jailbreak.
Not on our watch.
Moose and McHadron dive between the officers and begin helping the professor pick open his handcuffs. In order to stop the officers from intervening, you and your sister throw out your Pokemon and challenge the two police officers. Maple uses the starter that you didn't choose as the officers lead with a Smeltip and Tartesto. These steel types are tough, but you manage to take these first two down. Gourmandus comes out next, and unfortunately, Maple has to send out her next Pokemon, a Kleptonest. But even more unfortunately, the officers have Kleptonest's evolution to send out against it. Oh yeah, time for the final stage for our shiny loving bird line. So we're going to go in a kind of odd direction here. This line is based on the Alicanto from Chilean folklore, a bird that eats metal deposits and causes it to glow with a metallic shimmer. The first two stages of this line were a blue jay and a bowerbird, each known for liking shiny objects. But I wasn't sure what I wanted to do with the final stage. I looked into Chilean wildlife and came across something perfect. Not only do we not have a hummingbird Pokemon yet, which is kind of bananas, but the Chilean Woodstar has iridescent feathers and a really unique tail feathered pattern. And just to Pokemonify it, we'll also make it huge, so that it can still be, legendary looking like the Alicanto. Oh, and the shiny is great, because it gets to bring in the purple from the actual Chilean Woodstar. Okay, let's meet Klepticanto, the collector Pokemon. This exceptionally fast bird searches the land for natural metal deposits and man-made scraps. Klepticanto are very picky about what metals they eat, and the types of metal will leave them with different colorations. The speed at which they beat their razor-sharp wings gives them unmatched aerial mobility. The ability is Mirror Armor, it's reflective metal, and that bounces back any stat-lowering effects, with the alternate abilities being Pickup and Frisk. Kleptocanto zips around with its ridiculous speed stat, and Maple's poor Kleptonest doesn't stand a chance. You manage to take it and the Gormandus down, but Maple is down to her very last Pokemon, her lovable Squaddles, while the officers send out their final 2 Pokemon as well. First up is the ever-terrifying Phasbogor, and to balance things out, we get the evolution to the adorable Jangalam. So a quick reminder, this line is based on the Shore Laddie, a mostly friendly cryptid whose sheep-like fur is covered in seashells and ice and stone and stuff. I wanted to find another animal that hasn't been represented in Pokemon, and turned to the humble muskox. I spent a little bit of time living in Alaska, where they technically live way at the top, but I find them fascinating. Such a large, hardy animal living in the Arctic. Very cool. Also, in the spring, when they lose some of their coat, it kind of clumps off and gets stuck in a similar way to the Shore Laddie having ice and whatnot in its fur. I think that works. And those horns. If those don't scream just the nerdiest haircut, I don't know what does. So that works well with the Lammy dance inspiration from the first stage. We're also taking the few stones stuck into Jangalam's fur and really giving this goober some protective armor. And for its typing, while it'll still technically be just ice and stone, it'll be so incredibly strong that we're swapping in the steel typing. Now, I don't know, you can pretend the stones have iron ore or something in them if you want to, whatever. But yeah, with a big sweet smile on its face, we get one of the friendliest cryptid Pokemon around. This is Jangilox, the messy wool Pokemon. This friendly ice type likes to protect its friends by standing as a barrier. It intentionally tangles shells into its long fur like armor, and strengthens the bonds with ice. Its backside is as strong as any man-made alloy. Jangilox loves to dance about for their trainers, which can get quite noisy as their tough scales clang together. The ability is something new we're calling Sharp Debris, so it will scatter spikes at the feet of the opposing Pokemon whenever it takes a physical attack. So kind of like the toxic debris. Yeah, you get how it goes. The hidden ability is still Fluffy. It bounds around excitedly, which is quite different from Phasbogor's intense stare. You're ready to battle when both of the officers reveal that they have Beast Merge gems, and they begin to fuse. Alright, first up, let's get spooky with Phasbogor. So originally, it was the animatronics from Gravity Falls and, Freddy from Five Nights at Freddy's, with a little claw machine thrown in for a nice silhouette. But now we just have to continue with the FNAF stuff and pull in some Springtrap. I wanted the trainer to be scooped up and sitting inside the torso, actually similar to how Freddy carries the player around in Security Breach. I think that's just a little more interesting than wearing the whole thing like a suit. And it lets us get these nice skinny mechanical legs on the design, which I think is kind of funny. Now, I don't know how familiar you may be with FNAF lore, which is, in my humble opinion, kind of a convoluted mess, but the suits are spring-lock suits that you can wear and can also move on their own and have these complex springs and mechanisms inside. But there's a character, a certain evil purple character, who puts on the suit and the mechanics fail and he gets all Swiss cheesified by the mechanisms. So we're doing that here. Of course, it's Pokemon, and we're hand-waving the fact that any of the metal is actually causing damage to the trainer. As violent as it looks, it more just helps the trainer puppet the suit, since a, puppet master look felt appropriate as well. And of course, the drips just have to be purple in homage to the purple guy from FNAF. Good old Afton Guts just spilling out. Also, real quick, Shout out to everyone who wanted me to do a Springtrap lock design for this. There's a bunch of you guys. I hope you approve. Okay, let's learn all about Beast Merge Phasbogor. The Springtrap. Phasbogor's mouth splits apart and they devour their trainer. After distorting, the trainer is revealed nestled between sharp springs and spikes. Metal protrusions connect the trainer's arms, allowing it to puppet the suit while concentrated malice seeps out of the patchwork body. After unfusing, the trainer feels dull aches in their arms as if they had been impaled. The ability is Strong Jaw, which boosts biting moves by 50%. Yeah, I think that's appropriate. It shambles towards you as Jangalox fuses next to it. So, Phasbogor was pretty intense, so we need something a lot lighter to balance it out. One of the dumbest, but one of my favorite moments with Deputy Durlin from Gravity Falls is that episode where they are LARPing and he just says, "I'm a fortress." I don't know why, I just think it's funny, so that's what we're doing. We're gonna get an icy LARP fortress. Again, it's dumb, whatever. This was super easy, matching the Jangalox feet to the snow piled up at the base and getting some of its stones sprinkled throughout. After that, it's just having fun doing a nice subtle ice pattern. There's a bunch of ways to do this, but I like making a couple of layers, creating a bunch of triangles and sharp rhombuses. By locking these layers so that I can't draw on anything outside of them, I can use a soft brush to add a little bit of a gradient to their colors, and then after messing with the layers' opacities, we get an easy, sparkly ice look. But enough of that, let's learn about Beast Merge Jangalox. The Frozen Fortress. Jangalox breaks apart into a mass of ice blocks which form around their trainer to create a defensive tower. The trainer pulls out a pair of icy weapons which they can't help but flail about wildly. While the tower can only inch forward slowly, it is somehow able to spin quickly and pummel its opponents with attacks. This unfortunately leaves the trainer quite dizzy afterwards. The ability is Protection. This is something new. So, when targeting an ally with any move, it negates the effects of the move and instead draws the opponent's moves towards it. So it's basically you can use any move as follow me when you target your friend. And these two work together extremely well, with Jangalox tanking hits for her partner. You're really having your butt handed to you. You don't know how much longer your Pokemon will be able to hold out. You look over at Mabel, and a new level of determination has taken a hold as she lifts her Beast Merge necklace high. Her ever-faithful Squattles squeals triumphantly as the two fuse together. Now, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do with this fusion, so a big thank you to Spectilla, Gideon Fuston, Alpha Bloom, and a couple others for pushing me towards a giant flying Waddles. So this is a reference to the giant Waddles that is in the Gravity Falls finales, along with the phrase "when pigs fly," and of course, Mabel's shooting star logo. Squattles already has some wing motifs in its design, so it was really easy to just elaborate on those. I thought about bringing in the water typing for this since it is still based on a squonk, the cryptid inspiration where it like cries and all the time and can disappear into puddles of water and whatnot, but flying just felt much more thematic for this. Oh, and I also love the idea that for this battle that we're having, Mabel needs to overcome poison and steel and ice types with her poor fairy and flying type. A real uphill battle. Let's see what she has to work with using Beast Merge Squattles. The Shooting Star. Squattle grows into a massive bean shape and scoops up their trainer onto a comfortable cushion. With magical wings, this form is able to speed through the sky. While its body is soft and squishy, the star pattern is incredibly durable and is used to crash into opponents. After unfusing, trainers are overcome with the desire to hug their squaddles. The ability is something new we are calling Meteor Burn. So, using flying type attacks, they will deal either flying or fire type damage, depending on which will be more effective against the target. So, even though Maple and Squaddles are at a type disadvantage, their sheer determination and awesome ability give you the edge you need, and the two of you take down the officers. They break from their Pokémon and fall to the ground. By this point, you see that not only has the professor gotten out of his cuffs, but he's scooped up the last device component and slipped out a nearby window with McHadron. Moose is now trying to squeeze out of that window, but he has gotten stuck. You and your sister book it to the door, but it flies open on its own and you find someone blocking the way.
What seems to be going on here?
Looker, help us out here. These criminals broke the professor out of jail and have plans to go after Lil Glee.
Looker observes you and your sister, and Moose awkwardly hanging out the window.
I hope I'm not wrong here, but I'm actually going to just step aside and let them go. There's a lot more going on in town with Glee and the Cypher Squad than you officers realize. Time for me to fill you two in. Pines family, if it really is an emergency, you better get going.
Looker helps Moose out of the window and does, in fact, just let you all go. Once you get outside, the professor and McHadron are nowhere to be seen. With all of the device components, you're sure the professor went back to the lab. But we'll pick up from there in the next episode. Be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you are enjoying this series. There's a new puzzle added to the Discord server, so be sure to check out the video description for details on how to join all of the journal deciphering fun if you haven't already. A huge thank you to the Patreon supporters, and the biggest shoutouts to Angel and Cyberlord. Those two are just the freaking best. Okay, I will catch you in the next one. Later, nerds.